Hello, and welcome to Through the Mist with me, your host Owen. This is a Void of Verse Theory podcast where we look at the law and try to understand how it all works. In this episode, we're going to be saying, Welcome Roman! Welcome back to this fun-filled episode of Through the Mist. Hope everyone's had a good holidays, good Christmas. Everyone's getting ready, geared up for the new year. All working all right for you. Still no correspondence from anyone, so you know that bit I mentioned right at the start of episode 1, where I talk about any correspondence right at the start, and then we can have a discussion. Still hasn't happened yet, but just to remind you, if you want to, you can email the podcast at through.t.mist@gmail.com, or you could follow us and DM us on the Instagrams at through_mist. There are links to all these things in the descriptions of all the episodes. Well, maybe not the episodes, definitely in the program description anyway for this. So, you know, click on them, copy and paste them, do whatever you need to. So, yeah, so just general Owen's ramblings before we get into the procedure of this all and just work out what we're actually going to talk about. I usually have some rambly thoughts, and this is the rambly thought segment, because, you know, it's a podcast. Let's make it a little personal. Yeah, I was going to do this thing, but I've now decided against it because I did some testing and it was going to be just tricky to pull off, and I can't be bothered to do mass editing, so I'm being lazy. So I just put the sentiment across there. So over the Christmas period, I've had a lot of work to do, so I was just getting a bit stressed and paranoid, and things weren't working properly. It's kind of gone now because I've got a hand in the coursework. But so just remember, if you're out there, if you just need to take a moment, just stop. You can stop listening, pause this episode if you want. I don't really care, as long as you come back and finish it or promote it and do all the fun things to help it out if you enjoy it. But yeah, just sit down, relax, look around, breathe in slowly, and just calm down. Just take a minute. If you need to stop. Don't worry about stopping and reconvening your life, because everyone needs to do it, and I need to do it every so often. Just when I'm doing this, I stop and reconvene. That's why there's music segments in the earlier episodes. That's why I started doing this splitting up, because I just need to stop and refocus, and then I just put music in when that happens. So I even do it while recording this. So just make sure you're taking time to stop and refocus, and just, if it's on a task or on your life in general, just make sure you do it. One final thing before we get onto this. So that's that. Boing. I'm trying to be helpful and calming. So we're looking, if you didn't realise today, about Romans, and this is coming from Percy's Wish episode, where we looked at how Percy's wish affected the Greek world, and I realised I'm not 100% sure on what happens in the Roman world. I know I had a base idea, and I'm going to go deep dive, find out everything we can about how the Romans demigods find Camp Jupiter and become initiated, find as much information we can about that. And while I was doing all this research for all this stuff, we was reading parts of Son of Neptune, because it's where you get the introduction to all this. And there's this bit where it's like, oh, you'll pick up Latin quickly. All demigods do, but he's a Greek demigod, which means he may subconsciously have bits of Latin, but he shouldn't. It doesn't quite make sense for him just to be able to pick it up. Like, he can just pick up Greek because of that. But he's a Greek demigod, not a Roman demigod. So why Latin? And then I went, but when Percy first meets Chiron / Mr. Brenner, it's in Latin class. Clearly goes to Portugal, but then we all know that anyway. So he must have learned some Latin. So him picking up silver and gold for the names of the dogs, for Raina's dogs, it's well, that's part. Yeah, you could also just know the periodic table, but also he probably learnt something quite similar to that in Latin class, along with the mythologies, because you can't have a Latin class and not teach Latin. That's just weird. So my headcanon for this is that the reason Percy can pick up Latin so quickly, even though he's a Greek, is because he has because obviously both Jason and Percy have their memories wiped, but they still know things. They can't recall how they know the things, but they know things. So, like, he knows Latin because he got taught some of it when he was 12, 12, at Yancey, and then now he's just recalling it, but he's already got given an explanation why he should know it. So when he recalls it, it's not weird that he knows it. He's like, oh, that's because Hazel told me this. So that's a fun headcanon for that. And now, episode meat. So as I said like 5 seconds ago, standard, no. Hopefully I edited that out or did something fun. Right then, refocus, recenter, and go. So, standard, no, did it again. Main bulk of this episode, okay? This is what we are looking at. Is how the Romans got to Camp Jupiter and what draws them to Camp Jupiter and how they get to Camp Jupiter. Let's look at the standard procedure for all this jazz. So, the first lowdown on how the Romans get to Camp Jupiter is we are given this from Rayner. Here's quotes. At a certain age, one way or another, we find our way to the Wolf House. We are tested and trained. If Lupa thinks we're worthy, she sends us south and we join the Legion. So we know this happens, and we also have 6 different demigods who we get information about who have joined the Legion, and with some being a little, and then some of them have a little more standard procedures than others, as we'll get into as we go. So the 6 demigods we got Jason, obviously. We've got Percy, also. We've got Rayner, as I just mentioned. She tells us this information. We get Frank. We get Hazel, who's an odd one. And we also get Claudia, who is the most standard we get. And the only legacy we know about. If you don't know who Claudia is, she's the main character in, I'm looking at my bookshelf, in Camp... No, not that one. Because I put it before Trials of Apollo, because it happens... I don't know, maybe before Trials of Apollo? I don't know, timeline things. No, it happens before Trials of Apollo. It happens before the... it happens before the Burning Maze, anyway, definitely. And it's Camp Jupiter Classified. Anyway, is the book she's the main character from. And we learn about how the Roman camp kind of works in that sense. Oh, here we go. So yeah, I'm going to go through these demigods now and just give their basic introductions and how they went. And this is kind of, I'm just going to go through my research here, and then at the end we'll have a discussion about who or what I am. Let's start off with everyone's Romanesy Greek person, everyone's favourite son of Jupiter. I don't know, people seem to have varying opinions on Jason. Jason. So, I'm reason starting with Jason is because he's a weird one. He's a very weird one. So he's given to Lupa when he's 2, on the bequest of Jupiter in a way to please Juno in this case. So he's given to Lupa when he's 2, and then that's how he gets to the Wolf House. And then somehow, which I don't believe, well, maybe Lupa would do this, but I just find this is the most awkward part of Jason's backstory. And like so many, so he spending 2-ish years at the Wolf House. So from 2 to 4, he's at the Wolf House. Probably what I feel like is when other demigods arrive, they don't know any other demigods are there. There's like a mist thing that helps hide everyone else. It's like, this is also like why Thalia couldn't find Jason or Miss Mealy. One, he was taken by the wolves, but also suddenly them no longer being close proximity, that mist magic that the gods built to help separate the 2 worlds is now fighting against Thalia to hide Jason from her, to stop the clashes as much as possible. So yeah, he spends 2-ish years at the Wolf House before becoming a full member of the Legion, around 4, because he has 12 years at Camp Jupiter. Here's the 12 dashes on his arm. Slicing my arm like I've got them. the 12 dashes on his arm when he arrives at Camp Half-Blood, and he's around, I always do this math wrong, like 15, I think he's about a year younger than Percy. So yeah, that's what's on his arm. And this is the awesome thing, he somehow avoids predatorship for almost the full 12 years he's at camp. Okay, yes, from when he's like 4 to like 10, I understand. Get 6 years under his belt, but like somehow he manages to avoid most of his teenage life to become predator, and only really becomes predator after the Second Titan War. It's Jason's backstory is like, it's a fun idea, but some parts of it really just confuse me. Anyway, then we got number 2, Percy. So Percy is dropped off at the Wolf House by his junior, and then makes his way to Camp Jupiter. If you want to know more, read the book. Read Sun. That's what we care about that one. So Neptune also can go down to Sun. Love it. It's my favourite one. Because Sun of Neptune goes down to Sun if you acronym it. It's great. Raina. Okay, so Raina's on Cersei's island, pirates, and then something happens. So this is like the nugget of information we don't really know about Raina, is that at some point she splits with her sister after the pirates thing. Her sister goes to join the Amazons, and she somehow makes her way to the Wolf House. So is what happened, like what disagreement is, they found the Amazons and Halia joins, but Raina's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And now she's alone. She's like, her internal senses pull her to the Wolf House, and she ends up meeting Lupo, or do they get the Wolf House? Like that nugget of information we don't quite know. But then she presumably does the standard stuff. She gets to Camp Jupiter and becomes Predator, assumably very quickly, considering. So she's on the island. She leaves the island in Sea of Monsters, Somme, and is Predator by the time of the last Olympian, because I think she's Predator before Jason is, or maybe not quite. Maybe they kind of become Predators at the same time. Like the previous Predators step down after the Titan War, which I can feel like them doing, like, oh, that's it, I've had enough, and peace out, goodbye, I'm off. Yeah. So yeah, they may come at the same time, but it's basically last Olympian. By last Olympian, she is Predator. I feel like that's a solid prediction, and a very solid one to make it that. Then we have Frank, who is a bit different because he's told, oh, this past, you're son of Roman god. We also have descendants from these Argonauts, and we have a special power you got to work out yourself. And the wolves are going to here to pick you up to take you to Wolf House, and then you do all the things. Now, his is different, but he still involves him going to Wolf House and all that jazz. I've been saying that a lot in this one, I feel like. Then Hazel, who is the biggest, weird, different one, where Nico just goes, hey, I have a sister, take her in. She skips the whole Wolf House thing, but she's still allowed in Legion, does her probation and all that stuff. So then we have Claudia, who is a legacy of Mercury. And that's all we know at the time. Is like the start of the book. By the way, spoilers for that book, because I feel like not many people have read it. So I'm just going to... Claudia, she's a legacy of Mercury. And at 12, when she's 12, she's told to go to the Wolf House. And that's kind of important, because that links the whole Percy's wish thing, of which would be in effect now. We are demigod children, but she is a legacy and child of a god. We'll get to who that is later. And so she's told to go to the Wolf House with the letters from her dad, because of the legacy of Mercury thing. And then bada bim, bada boom, Camp Jupiter. We hear the rest of the story in the book from there. That's kind of all the 6 demigods we know and how they make it in. And you can see they do all follow a similar pattern, except from Hazel, of going to the Wolf House first. But we don't know much else. The next thing I want to tackle is claiming. So, we only have 2 instances of Roman demigods being claimed. One of them extremely abnormal. The other one probably a little abnormal as well. So we have Frank. When Mars shows up, he goes, "You're my son." But we know that's 100% completely abnormal, because they're like, "A god? What?" Romans never see the gods. If they do, it's themes of dire emergency and other such stuff. So it's just not normal. And then we have Claudia, as mentioned earlier. She gets claimed by her mother when she's given her legion tattoo, because apparently they're in the, what do they call it, the Senate, having a big meeting at the time for something, which I don't know, maybe Leo's back, who knows. Yes, but she gets claimed by her mother and given the tattoo at the same time, so it's not like a, I wouldn't say that's a very normal claiming. And fun fact, her tattoo both shows the Mercury legacy, because she's a great granddaughter of Mercury, and a visual for her mother, who is Cardia, who is the goddess of hinges, I think, from memory. And neither of these, I would imagine, as I said, standard procedure. And Frank's is probably even more weird than Claudia's, because it's Mars and he never shows up. We don't really know how standard claiming works, but like wording from Frank's POV when he's talking to the ghost, I've forgotten his name and I didn't write it down, and stuff around there, I feel like it can be assumed that claiming occurs usually in a similar way to a fashion at the Camp Half-Blood, except for Legacies of No, of course, because they already know beforehand, because it's like, oh, well, I'm a legacy of Mercury because either my dad or mother or a distant family member is a child of enter your deity here, and they get given letters which tell them what they are, and they get explained this all beforehand. So they all know beforehand, but normal claiming for a first generation demigod, as I'm now going to call them, is, I feel like, can be assumed in a similar way, where it's usually like a symbol above the head, which is like standard procedure for Camp Half-Blood. Maybe the Venus kids get the same thing that Piper does. You know, it's a standard thing where it's kind of like, and here's a message to show them that they're my child. Not usually someone going, and you are my child, which we have with the other two, the two known claimings we have. What all this? We'll get music and then we go. So what all I was doing, what I was trying to hope to find out was, how do they get to the Wolf House? What's the thing that dies in there? And first generation demigods, how do they get to the Wolf House? Because legacies, like we get explained with Claudia, is like, here's a letter, go here, you're trained about a wolf, you're a descendant of a god. Like, that's like what we get. So how do the first generations, and the only one we know of, the only one we get a proper, like just a random occurrence of, is Rayna. Or you have, so Percy gets dumped there by Juno, Jason gets dumped there by his mum after being told to go there, Hazel doesn't go there at all, Frank gets delivered there on Wolfback. So the only one of the first generation demigods we have is Rayna. She's the only one that makes it there, but we don't quite know what guided her there. It might be like that internal radar thing that we hear Percy talk about when he's on his way to Camp Jupiter. He's like, we're here, I'm at this spot, but I can't see it. And it's like, maybe it's like a guiding force, like a missed push. It's like going, like, go, run over that. You can do it, I know you can. Yeah, go here. Here's a good place. Yeah, so like there's that, but then there's this Percy's wish, where if Percy's wish affected all demigods in the Greco-Roman world, which the wording suggests it does, because he just says flat out, your demigod children, unless for some reason Zeus and Jupiter have to make two separate wishes, but I don't feel like that's true. Wishes, not wishes, what's the word? Promises to make two separate promises, because they're technically two different people. I don't know. So the first generation Romans still have to make it to Wolf House by 13 years of age. They have to make it to Wolf House, pass Lupa's training, and then claim at Mount Jupiter by the time they turn 13. But the legacies won't count towards Percy's wish, because it's half-blood children, and legacies aren't half-blood children, they're half-blood descendants. The descendants of half-bloods, they are not half-bloods themselves. Like, half their blood isn't mortal and half their blood isn't Inca. Like, and so this research kind of goes, okay, so it doesn't answer the question. I feel like we can say, if you look at it from the side of, does Percy's wish affect them? We have no clue, because people aren't searching for Roman demigods. Roman demigods find Camp Jupiter. Where's Camp Half-Blood? Camp Half-Blood finds the demigods. The demigods don't find Camp Half-Blood. But it's the other way round for Camp Jupiter, where the demigods find Camp Jupiter. Camp Jupiter doesn't actively search for demigods. Or if it does, don't know how they do it. So the questions I had weren't really answered. But why don't I end this one an open book and really properly get you guys to come and give me your thoughts? Do you think Percy's wish affects them? Or how do you think Percy wishes affects them? Are they like suddenly like when they turn like 13 or 12? Are they suddenly like going, Mum or Mum, Dad, can we go on a holiday to this place here? And they're like looking at a map and they just point at the Wolf House. And then the parents are like, oh, and the parents are wary because like some of them half know, some are like, oh yeah, sure, if you want. Why do you want to go there? And they're like, I don't know, I just have this gut feeling that I should. Like what? Like, how does that work? And then, so yeah, let us know your thoughts. Come back to us, and if anyone has replied within the next month, we shall start the next episode talking about all this. Yeah, so that is everything for this episode. Hope you all had a wonderful time listening to me natter on about nothing and everything all at once. And remember to if you need to, just stop, take a break, refocus, recenter before moving on to the next task or moving on to your next stage in life. Just make sure you stop and think every once in a while, because man, you know you need to. Yeah, I'll do the outro and then bye. Thank you for indulging this theory. If you have any comments or theories of your own that you want me to discuss, you can email them through to foo.2.mist@gmail.com, or you can follow the Instagrams @foo_mist and DM me there. Make sure you follow the podcast, rate the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, do whatever it is, on whatever platform you're listening to help boost that podcast statistics and get it out in the wider world. I've been Owen, and come back next time as we try to see on track one you've done.